Kirchwell on the voice of Morgantown, WAJR.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Talkline on the Metronews Radio Network in and around the great state of West Virginia. Hoppy Kirchwell with you. Kay Murray, our producer. Anthony Sparks handling the video stream. You can watch us at wvmetronews.com. wvmetronews.com. Going to spend some time between now and Election Day talking about the Republican race in West Virginia, too. I'm Democrat, too, but Nick Casey, I think, has a big... Well, Nick Casey has a big lead there over Misha Poore. But the Republican race is really interesting. There's like a half a dozen people in this race. Alex Mooney, Charlotte Lane, Ron Walters Jr., Steve Harrison, Ken Reed. Might be even leaving somebody out. So I want to give you a chance to meet each of those people at least once before the election. First up this morning, Alex Mooney. He is he spent a lot of time in Maryland. He was chairman of the Republican Party in Maryland. He was in the Maryland legislature, moved to West Virginia a couple years ago, and now he's running for Congress in West Virginia's 2nd District. And he lives in, do you live in Charlestown, Alex?
Yeah, just outside the town of Charlestown, Jefferson County.
Where exactly? That's my neck of the woods. I probably know the house where you live.
Well, the development's called Eastland. I'm on Huntfield Lane. It's, I don't know, about 2 miles, north of the town of Charlestown, near St. James, the Greater Catholic Church, the church we attend.
Yeah, I know exactly where it is. All right. Well, look, I got some specific questions, but take a free shot. Why are you in this thing?
Well, I'm a fighting conservative, and it's nice to be amongst folks who share the same values I fought for all my life. When I was a state senator in western Maryland, my district actually bordered Harpers Ferry, and a lot of conservative folks left Maryland for the more conservative, environment in West Virginia. It's a friendly state. I'm here by choice. I'm proud of that. Folks have been very supportive, and I saw Shelley Moore Capito was vacating the seat, and all my life I've fought hard for conservative values. I'm 100% pro-life. I've stood up on the floor of the legislature and offered amendments to stop taxpayer funding of abortion. I've fought hard for Second Amendment rights. I'm the only candidate in this race with an A-plus rating from the West Virginia Citizens Defense League. I also have a lifetime A-plus rating from the NRA. I've committed to oppose, out-of-control spending and tax increases, and I always said tax increases and spending are two sides of the same coin. Since I traveled West Virginia and the 2nd Congressional District in particular, one of the top issues I heard about was controlling spending. Mm-hmm. Folks were skeptical that any politician was going to get elected, go down to Washington, D.C., and actually vote to cut spending, no matter what party you're in and no matter what you say. Well, I like to point to a 12-year voting record as a state senator where I never once voted for a tax hike.
Well, let's start with that. And you do say you're a fiscal conservative. They just had a vote in Congress a couple weeks ago in the House on the Ryan budget. It was narrowly passed. 12 Republicans, in fact, did not vote for it. If you were in Congress to the seat you're running for, would you have voted for or against the Ryan budget?
Well, the Ryan budget is certainly better than what we have now. It reins in some spending. I haven't read the entire budget, but I agree with the principles of balancing the budget over time. I actually think I would have voted for something even more dramatic than the Ryan budget, something that cuts spending now, not in 10 years. And that's my concern, is a lot of these budgets, and I think even the Ryan budget fell into this, where it's a 10-year balanced budget plan, but all the balancing occurs in the last 5 years. And so it's a trick. What ends up happening is you go into 5 years. In fact, the first couple of years, spending goes up. And then in theory, you're going to balance the budget in the last 3 or 4 years. But 5 years go by, you pass another 10-year balanced budget plan that again balances in the last couple of years. So, I think I would have voted for an alternative. There was a more conservative alternative to that plan that was offered by several conservative members of Congress, I'm pretty sure. Again, I haven't read it all, but that would have balanced the budget more quickly starting next year, not in 10 years, because that's sort of the game. And I've seen that happen again. So it's still better than what the Democrats want to do. The Democrats don't want to balance anything.
Alex, you can't balance the budget or you can't get spending under control without doing something substantial in Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and probably defense as well, probably. But what would you cut, or what do you want to do in those areas?
Well, I actually want to give the people control over their accounts, not the government. You can personalize those, give folks more rights over where to invest it, and have more personal control. and do some reforms that way. I know Paul Ryan had an idea that the Democrats attacked him and said, "Oh, you're going to privatize, Medicare." Not privatizing. We like to use the term personalizing, so the individual has control of it. That's my belief, and you can save money by personalizing it, letting the folks have more control over it.
Like I think the Ryan budget. I think he talks about like a premium support plan where you get an amount of money and you can you would pick the Medicare plan that you want or the health insurance plan that you want. And that's what you do support that.
Right.
Yes,
I support that. I absolutely support that. Great idea.
What about other things that Ryan talks about, like turning food stamps and Medicaid into block grant programs and back to the states as a way to get control of costs?
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely. Department of Education as well, educational things, or a lot of things the EPA, environmental regulations. The state of West Virginia can make those decisions themselves. Mm-hmm. I'm a believer in that. Those are all good ideas.
What about
lots of good ideas?
What about Social Security? What would you do about that? Or what is your philosophy about getting Social Security?
Let's just say, first and foremost, no one's going to touch Social Security for those who've paid into it and are receiving it now. And the moment you bring that up, you'll get, any politician will get attacked, particularly the Democrats, saying you want to, take away Social Security. For younger folks, you might have to reform the system in a way, again, that personalizes it, lets them decide where to invest it, not a government program, for the younger folks. For the folks who have paid in and are dealing with it now, we should keep our promises for them.
Mm-hmm. Anything like raising the retirement age or raising the amount of...
Yeah, I have to look at that. I mean, not for the folks that are on it now, or I think I don't have a specific proposal, but folks over a certain age, you wouldn't raise it. But for the younger folks, that's something you might want to consider, just because the timetables seem to show folks are living longer than when the program was first passed. So that's something it'd be reasonable to look at.
Alex Mooney's with us, Republican candidate for Congress in West Virginia's 2nd District. Do you think that to get spending under control, that defense has to be part of it? Should defense spending be brought down as well?
Honestly, I think everything should be on the table. I think we obviously need a robust defense system. You certainly can't balance the budget on the backs of defense. But I'm sure there's waste in every department, including defense, and so we can cut the waste out. I think everything should be on the table, and we need to balance the budget, and it's our children's future. I have my kids are 10 and 8, and folks listening to your program here, Hoppy, that have children, they have a $50,000 debt on their heads. So I don't think we need to take anything off the table. No sacred cows. We look at balancing the budget, cutting spending. But when I say tough decisions, to me a tough decision is cutting spending. Prioritize your budget, and frankly military would be up there, but prioritize your budget and cut the things that aren't essential.
Yeah, and here's where that runs into trouble, and I'm not dismissing it all, and philosophically I'm pretty much in the same area as most conservatives are on the fiscal situation in the country, but it's tough for a congressman or woman because if you want to be a fiscal conservative, then you come back home and they say, Congressman, look, we got this project over here and we want to do this, we want to do that, and wow, that seems like a good thing, and there's a whole constituent group. How do you find a balance between, as you say, cutting the budget and then responding to constituent want, needs, and desires in your district?
I voted against budgets when I was a state senator, and even half the Republicans voted for the budgets. And I knew when I voted against the spending, I would get attacked. And I was. You vote against one state budget, and they're going to say you oppose everything in there, and even though some of the programs you support. And I think the voters realize, like you take Scott Walker in Wisconsin. The man stood up to the special interest. He said no, and he stood up to the unions. He was attacked viciously. I actually think the voters, if they really believe you're going to cut spending, will reward you with and everyone who's running with re-election. They won't punish you for it if they really believe it. If they think you're trading favors, and this is the problem that even Republicans ran into. And I'm a conservative Republican, but my own party has gone the wrong direction sometimes by bailing out the banks and bailing out the car industry. The voters don't want that. That's wasted spend. And of course, Obamacare is the biggest example of them all. The voters don't want that kind of spending. They don't want to take their money to bail out the bank system. What? So the voters look at that and they say neither party's standing up to spending. I can understand it.
Let's talk about Obamacare for a second. Obviously, you're against that, and would you support the repeal of that? What, in your opinion, if anything, should be done about people who have already signed up for Obamacare or have gotten it through Medicaid? What do you do about them if you repeal Obamacare?
Yeah, I mean, Medicaid already exists. We should repeal Obamacare completely. I believe in the free market. Folks can purchase their own plan. I don't think there should be a mandate by the government that you have to buy insurance. If someone doesn't want to buy insurance and just pay out of pocket as they go along, that's their right. So I don't think we replace it. I think we repeal it completely and let the free market, let the individuals make those decisions.
Do you think that the free market, would you allow the free market to handle individuals who have, let's say, a serious pre-existing condition and therefore have extreme difficulty in getting and or paying for health insurance?
Well, there's lots of different pre-existing conditions, and there's a debate over which could be covered and which couldn't. I would suggest one example that I would put that in the free market area, and folks can buy plans that cover certain pre-existing conditions if they want to, and not buy other plans if they don't want to. But I think that you could look at allowing people to buy plans across state lines. I've not heard much opposition to that. Mm-hmm. Some states have very expensive health insurance plans because they do not. They have too many mandates, frankly, on covering things, so it's very expensive. So I think you increase the free market competition, give people all the options, let them choose the plan that's best for them.
Do they have right? And if you do that, does the state, by the state I mean the government, have any responsibility to subsidize or help pay the insurance premiums of those who may have much higher premiums because of pre-existing conditions?
Well, I mean, I'm not an expert on this. I know we already have the Medicare and Medicaid to cover some of that, and then I would leave that as a state decision. Running for federal office, and again, I think that the states can handle taking care of their health care needs of the citizens of their states better than the federal government. The federal government actually makes it worse. Folks are having a hard time paying their mortgage and other bills, and and then you attack Obamacare on top of it, and there's a trade-off, either way. Folks have to be able to pay their bills.
Alex Mooney is with us, Republican candidate for Congress in the 2nd District in West Virginia. Let's talk about the Second Amendment. You're a strong Second Amendment supporter. Talk to me philosophically. Where is the line? Because the Second Amendment establishes an individual's right to possess firearm. But even the courts, even Scalia says, well, there are also limitations. Where do you think the limitations are? Where is the line between that separates an individual's right to exercise his Second Amendment right and a government's responsibility to, or the government's ability to limit that right?
Yeah, I don't think the government should limit the right. I think it's a God-given right, and I believe in the right to carry. The only situation where someone loses their rights, their constitutional rights, is when they've committed a violent felony. So if someone's made an assault or been convicted, not accused, but convicted of assault and battery or some violent crime, yeah, then you can lose some of your constitutional rights. You can go to jail. You can lose your gun rights and other things if you've been convicted of a violent felony. Aside from that, guns protect people. I mean, guns are used to prevent crime, and I'm a big believer in Second Amendment rights. I've voted that way. That's why I've earned my A+ rating from the NRA and West Virginia Citizens Defense League, as I mentioned earlier. And I think that some of the presupposition that guns are the problem is just simply incorrect. Mm-hmm. Guns are not the problem. Guns are actually a solution to the problem in most cases.
Does that mean that in your interpretation that the government would not be able to, except if, let's say a person isn't, I'm not talking about a convicted felon, I'm talking about the average citizen, okay?
Right.
Law-abiding citizen, that the government should not be able to limit in any way the kinds of guns a person has, or the number, or the size, or the caliber, or the magazine size, any of that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yep. So you could have a, I'm not trying to be glib here. I'm just trying to establish philosophy. So you could have a rocket launcher.
Well, the machine guns and those types of things have been banned since the 1920s. So I think the discussion we're having is of the guns that are normally available to folks. And you're talking, they come up with scary names like AR-15. But those types of guns are often used for hunting and legitimate sporting purposes, so we should not ban those. The magazine sizes, I mean, there's been bills, should it be 10 bullets or 20 bullets in a magazine? And that's, again, the government shouldn't decide the size of a magazine for us. I think that should be allowed. No one's talking about rocket launchers or nuclear weapons or those kind of things. We're just talking about guns folks use for legitimate self-defense and sporting purposes. Those are the guns the liberals are going after. right now, and I completely oppose that. I think it is your right to have those type of firearms.
Alex Mooney is with us, Republican candidate for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District. You have an interesting personal story. Your mom, a Cuban refugee, correct?
Yeah, my mom fled to this country when she was 21, when an evil tyrant named Fidel Castro took it over and threw her in jail for not being a communist.
Oh, your mom was in jail?
Yeah, she's in jail for 7 weeks during the Bay of Pigs invasion. Fidel Castro threw in jail anyone who wasn't known to be a good communist and that might actually fight for freedom. They threw them all in jail. And then when the Bay of Pigs invasion failed, a lot of folks from Cuba who did not believe in communism fled to this country. And this country is a great country with freedom and opportunity. So one of the reasons I run for office, my father's a feisty Irishman from New York who loved politics. He passed away. He served in Vietnam and fought against the communists there. But he passed away, and I was just raised to fight for freedom, and that's what I do. I don't apologize for that. I'm a passionate believer in individual rights, our Constitution. It's a wonderful thing. Protects us from some of the things that happened to my mother in her country, her former country. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, very passionate. I do have an interesting background. My wife's parents are also from Cuba, and, we've made the choice to homeschool our children here in West Virginia, and West Virginia's been very good with their homeschool laws, and it's freedom is worth fighting for. That's why I'm running for office. Mm-hmm.
How have you addressed the whole, because in West Virginia, not as much in the Eastern Panhandle, frankly, but in other parts of the district, we're a little more parochial. So how have you addressed you were in Maryland and now you're in West Virginia, and naturally that comes up. How do you address that?
Sure. Yeah, I say I believe in fighting for freedom, and I'll tell you, I love living in a state that shares my values. I am a candidate who has a lifelong record of fighting for conservative principles, the same values that West Virginia voters have. Not all the candidates in this race can say that. And so that's how I answer it. I am proud of my decision. We're very happy here. It is a huge district, and the decision, the district is diverse. It goes from Charlestown, where I live, Jefferson County, all the way to Charleston, 17 counties. And there's 7 candidates running, and all of us come from one of those 17 counties. There are 16 other counties where we don't live. And there's a big, Charlestown, West Virginia is closer to New York City than to Charleston, West Virginia. So, we have to work hard. I will work hard. I will commit to this. I will work hard to represent everybody. I don't care where they live, which county. I will work hard to represent everybody equally and to fight for conservative values. If the vote, no matter what county you're in, if the voter's looking for a go along to get along, sort of not make waves type of person, that would not be me. If a voter in Charleston or Putnam County or any county wants someone who's going to really stand up and fight, that's who I am. That's what I've always done. I've got the proven record to do that.
Alex Mooney, Republican candidate for Congress in West Virginia, as he said, sprawling 2nd District. Alex, it's good to talk with you. Good to get to know you. I met you one other time. I don't know if you recall. You stopped by the station one time. I do
recall that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's nice to talk to you again, and we'll be in touch.
Okay. Thank you. God bless.
All right, Alex. Alex Mooney in that really hotly contested West Virginia 2nd District Republican campaign. We'll return in just a moment.
What's